NFL Week 7 is upon us. We've got 4 primetime games for your viewing pleasure. We've got barking dogs. We've got the Steam Report, like you would see on Sundays with VR. And of course, the Deli still has not been condemned. So Marco is going to keep it up and running. 18-11. That is 62% on the season. And then we're going to follow it all up with some best bets. Up next. Kelly Stewart here, Marco D'Angelo, Yanni the Greek, and we are going to get right into these primetime games. I'm going to go first because I've got Thursday night football. The Pittsburgh Steelers are 5.5-point favorites at Cincinnati, total 42.5. And we all know how much I love those primetime home dogs catching 5.5. But before I get into that, I'm going to tell you about the Pittsburgh Steelers, who have won and covered their last 3 games. And hey, I know a lot of respected people who bet the Browns last week. I could not stomach it, but the Steelers dominated again. And that was kind of surprising to me because Steelers have not been a great bet under Mike Tomlin as a favorite. From our friends at the Gold Sheet, when favored by at least 4 points, the Steelers are 13-26-1 against the spread. That is 33.3% since 2017. You know what Tomlin does really well? He owns rookie quarterbacks, but veteran quarterbacks, maybe one's named Joe Flacco. 1 week in for him there in Cincinnati. And hey, he had a respectable effort there on offense. 12 targets for Jamar. 10 of his 12 targets, went to Jamar Chase. 2 of them got on the same page early. And I think that gives us hope to trust the rest of this Bengals offense. I do not trust the Steelers here in this spot. I can only take the 5.5 with the prime time home dog. Give me the Bengals. I know that sounds absolutely wild to say. Just peep Mike Tomlin's Thursday night football record. That's a little homework for you guys there in the comment section. Marco D'Angelo, Sunday night football. The Atlanta Falcons, off a nice win there on Monday night, are a 3.5-point dog headed into San Francisco, and the total is 45.5.
Yeah, Kelly, no team's been hit harder with injuries than the 49ers have been this year. And now they lose heart and soul on the defense. Fred Warner last week, that is a big blow to the defense. But, even with that, and he went out early in the game, San Francisco played well enough to win last week. If it wasn't for a couple costly turnovers and just an amazing Baker Mayfield. And I enjoyed that game because that was my 5% last week, Tampa Bay coming home, but it wasn't easy for him. Mac Jones has played well. Last 3 games, he's thrown for 306, 333, and 296. He's getting the job done. In Atlanta, well, plain and simple, they're in a horrible scheduling spot. They played a rare Monday night football game. Even rarer, it was a home Monday night football game, and they were hosting one of the powerhouses in the AFC, and they beat the Buffalo Bills outright. Does this scenario sound familiar? Just 2 weeks ago, didn't Jacksonville do the same thing on Monday Night Football? They upset the Chiefs. What happened to them? Yeah, they laid an egg the very next week against Seattle. A game that we were on right here on the show with Seattle. Well, you know what? It ain't broke, don't fix it. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going against Atlanta off of their big win on Monday Night Football. Now they've got to travel cross country on a short week. Totally bad scheduling spot. You've got a young quarterback in Michael Penix Jr. coming off a big win and traveling on the road. This 49er team, one thing you can always say about them, they always show up. Doesn't matter who gets hurt, it's next man up. We saw what they did on that Thursday night game against the Rams. And part of last week's handicap for me of going against the 49ers was because of that Thursday night win. That was a big win for them, and they were playing a second week in a row on the road. Now they're back at home. Let's go with the 49ers. I got them winning this one 27-20. Take 49ers, lay the points on Sunday night.
Okay, we have another doubleheader on Monday Night Football. VR Tampa headed to Detroit as a 4.5-point underdog, total 52.5.
Gotta look to the favorite here. Detroit line's moving in their direction, and I agree with the move. Bottom line, they're coming off a tough loss at Kansas City, losing that game by almost 2 touchdowns. I think they bounce back here. What's it called? When I look real quickly, when I look at Detroit, they're the best team in the NFL, power rating wise right now. Perfect example of a team right coming off of a high profile primetime game, being almost embarrassed, and now prime time once again, but this time at home, where they have a strong home field advantage. They've been dominant there. If you look at their point differential splits between what they've done at home and what they've done on the road. Flip side of that, it's the perfect storm. You look at Tampa Bay, they're a 3-0 road team right now in the NFL. Very difficult to do, win on the road in the NFL. Well, they're perfect there. But if you look at their point differential on the road, it's 7. So 3 coin flip games that they got the best of. That luck runs out. Very hard to keep winning those 1-score games. A lot of luck has to go your way. And as good as Baker Mayfield appears to be playing, the bottom line is he's still below league average in passing success rate. On the flip side, I have Goff, who's number 2, sitting at passing success rate. Again, we knew Detroit wasn't going to coast through this year like they have the last few seasons because of the disruption. Offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator. But they are still the number 1 team in the NFL, number 1 power rated team in the NFL. They're the number 1 offense in the NFL. They've already played a top 10 schedule. And I think it's a good spot for them to bounce back at home, prime time, shake that loss off. And they have a bye coming up the following week. So it sets up perfectly. You want to head into that bye off a win. You're going to get a motivated Detroit team against a little overvalued Tampa Bay team. Lay the points. Anything less than a touchdown, Detroit's the right side.
All right. Not a Baker believer VR, and I kind of don't blame him. That one looks a little tricky. Another one that I think is a little interesting here. Houston is a 3.5-point underdog at Seattle. Low total here, 40.5. And the reason why I say it looks tricky is because after starting 0-3, the Texans have gotten healthier, right? They've got back-to-back wins, except those teams are the Titans and a decimated Ravens team. Seattle, on the other hand, picked up another nice road win at Jacksonville. And while they seem to be better on the road than they are at home, they still are 4-1 straight up and against the spread this season. And that lone loss versus Tampa Bay probably, arguably, could have went either way. And that was the weird week for them defensively. What did they do last week in Jacksonville? They finished with a plus 2.4 yards per play differential, and Trevor Lawrence was sacked 7 times. Sam Darnold, hand up, probably owe you an apology. He has only thrown 1 interception his last 4 games. And guess what? Sits in the top 3 in the league in passing yards, yards per attempt, passer rating, and QBR. Who would have guessed that? Now, the one thing that isn't going for Seattle is they're returning from a cross-country road trip being played late on a Monday night there. That's the good news. They have that extra day of rest to get healthy. So don't buy into too much of that travel fatigue. Seattle with 5 straight Monday night football wins, and I think they make this one 6. You guys are looking to watch Bet on It early. You guys can join the Wager Talk Insiders, wt.buzz/insiders. You guys are going to get early access, not only Bet on It, the Deli, TNA. Of course, you guys are going to get access to the Steam Room, and we're going to start working on more things for our loyal viewers right now. $2.99 a month to become a Wager Talk Insider. You also are going to get access on occasion to VR Steam Room. And that's what this segment is. It is a look into what the wise guys are playing early on in the week. And then we will talk about it more on Sunday with him and Ariel Epstein.
And what you want to make sure you're paying attention to when it comes to the NFL line moves is what was the look ahead. Because right now you can already bet the games 2 weeks from now, not this Sunday's games, the following games. and they're already getting some action. And the key is there follow through after that, or is it just taking advantage of the look ahead? Here's some of the NFL for you. Start off with the Thursday night game. Pittsburgh Steelers, they laid 3.5, laid 4, and 4.5 on the Steelers. Move into Sunday's action. London game, under money right away. The look ahead was 46.5, went to 46. They hit that under, hit under 45.5 as well. We saw follow through with Kansas City. Open 10.5 was the look ahead. They laid it, then laid 11 as well. Also, the Patriots opened the look ahead at 6. That got some money. And then at 6.5, they got hit as well. That's why you're looking at them at that key number right now. 463, Carolina at a pick 'em. That was it. Just the look ahead got bet. And then the under 43 and 42.5. And finally, Monday Night Football, Detroit look ahead at -4.5, then got hit at -5 when it opened. And Seattle, the look ahead at -3, even money got hit, but nothing since then. Little early in the week yet for NFL, but that's what we got so far. And like Kelly said, last call on Sunday, steam rooms as well. We'll up to date, up to the minute information heading your way.
All right, let's get into those barking dogs and just bring in the comments now. I can hear it. Marco and I have the smallest barking dogs. It is what it is. Listen, this is a crappy NFL week. It just is. And we're going to own it. So go ahead, say what you want to say in the comments. Marco, tell me why you like the Jets.
Yeah, you got to hold your nose with this one, but we're going to look at it, and it's more going against Carolina. Carolina took advantage of a poor Dallas defense last week, who was playing their second of back-to-back road games, which happened to follow that big Monday night, or Sunday night, I should say, game that they had against the Green Bay Packers. It was just the right spot last week to go against Dallas and take Carolina. Now, the Jets do have to return from London. They played last week. It was an ugly game for them. Normally, I would look to fade a team in a travel spot like this because usually the teams that play overseas get their bye week the following week, but that's not the case here. And we've got a winless Jets team. When you're a winless team, the pressure is on you to try to get that first win, so you're not going to take any weeks off. So I know the Jets are going to show up. That sometimes is a problem because the team that shows up is not very good. But we've got to play the spot here. In Carolina, I just don't trust them defensively. And I know the Jets have had their problems, and the problems have come from one Justin Fields. Last week, I mean, he set the football world back decades. That was probably one of the worst quarterback performances you've seen. He actually finished the game with negative net passing yards. I don't know that, and I've been doing this a long time. I don't know that I can remember that ever happening, but he did it last week. I expect him to have a better game this week. He can't have a worse game, that's for sure. Jets get their first win in this one. Again, sometimes you just got to trust the process, and the process in this one is that we're going against Carolina. There's no world that Carolina should be a road favorite in, even against the bad Jets. We're going to go ahead and take the Jets, get their first win of the season. So it's only +1.5. So definitely money line sprinkle there as well, because we know in the NFL, Kelly, games never fall at one.
Never.
Saying that sarcastically.
Unless you are the Chicago Bears and you do it in back-to-back games. VR, let's just talk about it. This is kind of a crazy one. I know I'm not going to lay points with Mike Vrabel on the road, but should people looking to take the Patriots in Survivor be extra careful this week?
Absolutely. I don't care. Wise guys, schmize guys. I know they're on New England, and it doesn't bother me one bit, because now I'm getting a touchdown thanks to them laying that 6 on New England. And that's a little bit too many points to give this Tennessee team. Listen, I know Tennessee's arguably the worst team in the NFL, but they should be the worst team in the NFL because they've had the toughest schedule in all of the NFL. Number one, toughest schedule so far this year has been Tennessee. The 30th toughest schedule has been the New England Patriots. They've had a really easy go of it so far. So not surprising, they're sitting at +30 in point differential, 4-2, top of their division. Easy schedule so far. You're looking at Drake May, third right now in passing efficiency. He's the number 3 pick in the 2024 draft. I get it. He's expected to be a stud, but he's not a top 5 passing efficiency guy just yet. That number will start to regress towards the mean, rest assured. His passing efficiency success rate will not end up better than Stafford, Mahomes, Love, Darnold, Jackson, Jones, Allen. He's all above them right now. That's not going to continue. It's because they've had the 30th easiest schedule. I like Tennessee catching a lot of points at home. Again, they've had going to keep repeating it, the toughest schedule. So they've looked bad. It'll get easier for them. Again, May could only regress towards the mean. As bad as Tennessee has looked, they can only progress towards the mean, I think, as the schedule gets a little bit easier. Give me the touchdown, fade the wise guys, sprinkle the money line. Don't be surprised if New England gets the loss. All this Vrabel returning nonsense, that's adding an extra pointer and a half at least. So give me Tennessee, worst team.
All right. The Titans. Oh boy. I mean, listen, for a survivor perspective, I hope that happens because I would not be caught dead using the Patriots this week, but I have a feeling a lot of people are going to do it. And I also shouldn't be using a dog this small. And in fairness, they were plus 2.5 yesterday when I put them in the script. And it's not my fault they're getting money because the wrong team is favored here per our Philly producer, Dan Alexander. Look, the Eagles are kind of in a free fall. And they always say, don't try to catch a falling knife. But I think that's what Eagles backers are going to try to do here. You have back-to-back losses against the Broncos and an ugly loss to divisional rival on Thursday night to the Giants. And those bad vibes are kind of lingering a little bit longer than I think fans in Philly would like. I have questions. How hurt is Saquon Barkley? Speaking of hurt, Jalen Hurts cannot get on the same page with his receivers. You want to lay points with him on the road? Eagles 7-14 against the spread following a loss. 1 loss became 2 with the Broncos. 2 losses are going to become 3. Minnesota is coming off their bye week after they just spent 2 weeks in London. Number 2 in EPA per play allowed. Number 6 in defensive success rate. Number 1 in passing EPA allowed. I know VR just made fun of the narrative in Tennessee, but Carson Wentz versus his former team, anyone? Give me the Vikings and teasers. Give me the plus 1.5 and give me the plus 115 on the money line. I like the Minnesota Vikings. And again, if you're not happy with our barking dog selection, just tell us in the comment section. We would love to hear from you guys. Maybe next week we can at least find some field goal underdogs. There just isn't a lot. And I also try to break things up, guys, because I don't want to be redundant in games. And VR's best bet is a barking dog that I like. And there's some other things kind of in that mix that we're going to save for later on in the show. But one of the things we're going to get to right now is the Deli. 18-11, Marco. I'm not condemning you yet, even though some of these sandwiches have been a little hard to stomach.
Yum.
Well, Kelly, as I said off air, you're just a little bit too bougie sometimes. You got all right.
Fair
So
point.
the sandwiches have been getting the money, and we're going to continue to do that. And if you like this segment of Bet On It, we got an extended version of it. It comes out on Thursday. Marco's Deli. Tune in. I will give you at least 5 games. And we give you games that just miss being on this show because I only give you 1 on here in this segment. And as Kelly mentioned, we are 18-11 on the season with all of the plays and 6 weeks, 6 episodes of the show, 4 winning weeks, 1 losing week, and 1 2-2 in 1 week. And that push that we had last week was Missouri against Alabama, and we used +3 on the show. It was on the weekend 3.5, so I'm sure a lot of you guys won that, but we are calling it what we put it out at, a push. So let's get into this week's, and we got a tasty sandwich, and I know that our producer loves these sandwiches, and I'm going to ask you guys a question at the end of the show, and we'll see what the producer says. But this is a classic sandwich spot, and we're going to I'll tell you the sandwich right out the bat. It is a Philly cheesesteak sandwich, and you'll see where I'm going very quickly. Last Thursday night, Jackson Dart and the New York Giants upset the defending Super Bowl champs, division rivals, the Philadelphia Eagles. And they didn't just upset them. They put a beat down on them, 34-17, and I don't even think it was that close. Having a rookie QB get a big win in his first nationally televised standalone game like that, and then ask them to travel across country, that is enough to line me up to fade the Giants this week. But we've got more. You've got the Giants feeling fat and sassy after their big win. You've got Denver coming off one of the ugliest wins you're going to ever see last week against the Jets. Who's going to want to lay points with them? But look at the New York Giants. Who do they play next week? That can't be right. They just played them last week. Yeah, that's right. They play the Philadelphia Eagles again. Talk about a sandwich spot. Philly cheesesteak style, baby. I'm taking Denver here. And how many times have you I've told you, when a good team has a off game, just escapes with a win, gets that scare, you're going to see their best effort the next week. Well, that's definitely Denver. Check that box. Also, that was a horrible spot for Denver last week. That's why we liked the under. That's why, the Jets were a live play, even though it was ugly to get there. They got there. The Denver was playing their fourth road game in 6 weeks. And talk about road games. You don't get any farther than traveling to London for a road game. It was a horrible spot for them. Now they're back at home. They're going to get the job done. And as far as Jackson Dart goes, this is a rookie quarterback. Do you think Sean Payton's going to have a game plan ready for him this week? We know what veteran coaches do against rookie quarterbacks. It's going to be a lot tougher this week. He's not facing an easy defense this week. He's going to face an elite Denver defense. I think it's going to be a long day for the Giants. I'm taking Denver. I am laying the points. We're calling it Denver 31-17. It is a Philly cheesesteak. And here's the question for the viewers. I want the answer in the comments from you guys. Are you team whiz or team no whiz on your Philly cheesesteak?
You might want to elaborate on that, because I think you might get a little confusion in the comment section, Marco, for those not from Philly.
Well, for the Philly cheese. Well, we got a guy from Philly right in the middle of the screen.
You want him to come on? It is 9:30 in the morning in West Coast, and I guarantee he looks like a bear that just crawled out of the woods from winter.
Well, why do you think I leave the camera off? I leave the camera off for that exact reason. Cheese whiz is we give it to the tourists, Marco. We like Cooper Sharp in Philadelphia. Cooper Sharp cheese. Or if you want to be an Italian, shout out to Marco. You do a little provolone. But the whiz.
I got provolone. I think that's what you brought me the morning I was severely hungover before the.
I saved Kelly's life
game.
with a cheesesteak. That actually is a true story.
It was rough. Dan saved
VR's a Philly boy too. Philly, which way are you, VR?
It depends where you're at. I'm telling you, if you're down at the tourist spots like Pat's or Gino's, you got to have cheese whiz on it. You have to. But if you're at a regular steak shop, then yeah, you go with the cheddar or something along those lines for sure. But yeah, if you're going to go to Pat's, Gino's, those kind of places, you got to get it authentic the way they do it. I think it's good. It's nothing you want to make at home with cheese whiz, but yeah, if you're out there doing it, you got to eat it like that, I think.
All right. Learn something new every single day. And hopefully you guys are going to learn something new in our best bet segment. But first, I wanted to remind you guys, we got a ton of specials going up right now over at wagertalk.com. My personal favorite is the Flex Picks. Why? Because it gives you the ultimate flexibility to get the picks from the experts that you want every single day. You just go on, you choose your handicapper for that day before the picks get released. And then you can say, hey, Marco's done really great on Saturdays. I'm going to go ahead and schedule him. I want all of VR's NFL for Sunday and Monday. Schedule him there. And of course, you can skip days at your convenience. Right now, 30 days, $249. That's $50 off for Flex Picks. VR, let's get into your best bet for NFL Week 7.
Let's do it. Now, on Monday Night Football, I had the Chicago Bears as a 5% big move and urged bettors to sprinkle a little something on that money line like we always do on some of our dogs. But this is a bad spot for the Chicago Bears. You have a lot of recency bias coming off that Monday night win. This is a team that's now won 3 straight games, covered 3 straight games. So they've outperformed the betting market. And more importantly, they've done so as underdogs. That role's now flipped. They're now the favorite. In fact, they're a significant favorite. And this is a team with no home field advantage, at least based on this year, right? They're playing better on the road than they're playing at home. Your home field advantage should come if your point differential is a lot better at home than it is on the road. That's not the case here. So the inflated price is based on nothing more than recency bias of what we've seen the last week or two. With that said, factor in Caleb Williams down at the bottom in passing success rate. In fact, he's 29th in the NFL right now going into this week, where Rattler, he's right behind that league average, continuing to improve. I think the Saints team's being overlooked here. I think they're catching more points than they should. And I think this is a very, very winnable game for New Orleans. Again, I think that if they could run the football successfully, which they've been able to do, you got a workhorse in Kamara back there, and they can keep the Chicago offense off the field and sustain a couple drives, they're going to be right in there to win this game at the end. That's why the money line is going to be live. But against this defense, barely top 20, that back door is going to be open the entire 60 minutes. Take the New Orleans Saints. The points are a gift. Sprinkle that money line as well.
Yeah, Marco and I talked about this off air. We also like the New Orleans Saints, a team that Marco's on. I can't help but agree. I've been on the Colts all season long, Marco. But before you tell us why you like the Chargers, please tell me what you've got going on over at wagertalk.com.
Well, Kelly, we got a special going. It's an end of the year special. It's the rest of 2025. There's 10 weeks, a little more than 10 weeks left in the calendar year. And you know, if you bought my plays on a weekly basis, a week costs $99. You'd spend $990. But if you take advantage of this offer, you're going to get every play, every sport, the rest of 2025 for just $449. NBA starts next Tuesday. Hockey started last Tuesday. We're number one in both of those sports over the last few years. You look at the NBA since 2020, number one at Wager Talk. The hockey since 2021, number one at Wager Talk. You'll get all of those. You'll get our winning football plays as well. College basketball is just around the corner as well, too. So grab that rest of season. We hit a 5% again last week. Got another one coming up this weekend. Get on board. No better time. And Kelly, yes, you're right. The Indianapolis Colts have been the surprise of the season. But if you tuned into our preseason previews, all three of us were very high on the Indianapolis Colts this year coming in. So it's not a surprise to us. But I'm going to jump off that gravy train this week that has been the Indianapolis Colts, and I'm going to look at the Chargers. I think this is a bad spot for Indianapolis. And to be fair, you know, they have had their wins, but let's be honest. They've played Miami, they've played Tennessee, and they've played the Raiders. Those are three teams that are playing very bad this season. And then they also beat a banged-up Arizona team. The only good team that Indianapolis did beat was Denver. And if you remember that game, Denver had the game won. Indianapolis was lining up for a very long field goal. They missed it. Game over. Oh, wait, there was a yellow flag on the field. They got that was the infamous leverage penalty, and they got 15-yard penalty, moved it closer, and guess what? They kicked the game winner at the gun with a second chance. So, yes, Indianapolis is playing good, but, you know, the record is a little bit better than maybe it really should be given the schedule that they've played and some of the breaks. The Chargers, they were lucky to escape last week, but give them credit. They didn't play well, and they found a way to win, and they were really in a bad spot. That was their sixth game of the season. It was the fourth time they were on the road. And if you remember, this team, with all the road trips that they made, they went to Brazil the first game of the season. And then what made last week's game tough for them is they played on the East Coast 3 weeks ago, came home, played a game. then went back out on the road to the East Coast to Miami. That's a horrible scheduling spot for a West Coast team to make that East Coast trip twice in 3 weeks going cross country. It's better if they would have played it back-to-back weeks, because then at least teams sometimes stay on the East Coast to reduce the travel. Now they're back at home. You're going to see a good effort out of them. I like them here. I'm going to go with the Chargers. Expect the performance from the Chargers more like what we saw in the first 3 weeks of the season than what we saw in the last 3. Take the Chargers 24-16 over the Colts.
All right. And another small underdog for me. Could have went back and forth on this one being a barking dog because I think they are barking. But again, you guys are going to tell me in the comment section what a jackass I am, because I'm taking the Dallas Cowboys, who are 6-2 straight up, 7-1 against the spread in their last 8 meetings, versus the Washington Football Commies. The Commanders' wide receiver, Terry McLaurin, is still questionable, so keep an eye after he's missed 3 games with a quad injury as of Wednesday. Don't know. Also don't know about CeeDee Lamb with his ankle injury from week 3. Hopefully both go, because I think this is going to be a really fun game. I know a lot of people that like the over here, but I like the Cowboys, number 3 team in scoring, 29.7 points per game. And I don't know if it's a surprise that Dallas has great offensive numbers, or if it's that Dak Prescott is finally healthy this late into the season. I think he's been playing at near MVP levels. Yes, I said it. Everybody else wants to talk about Baker Mayfield, but Dak Prescott is getting no love here, especially against a Commanders defense that is shaky at best and just got dominated by Caleb Williams and the Bears on Monday night. I like Dallas plus 1.5, Dallas in teasers, and of course, Dallas plus 115 is probably worth a play as well, because like Marco says, games don't land 1. And if this one does land 1, fine. We're going to get the teaser and we're going to get the plus 1.5. Let's bring back in Marco and VR to thank you guys each and every week for hanging out with us here on the Wager Talk YouTube channel. I know we keep asking for comments, and that's because we need them. We also need likes, and hit that subscribe button from you guys. It does wonders for our channel, and we are here for you each and every NFL week, all the way to Super Bowl. So make sure you guys give Marco a follow at Marco in Vegas. Make sure you guys give Yanni a follow at Greek_Gambler. I'm Kelly in Vegas. Until next week. Oh, wait, you guys need to know where the college football show is. Don't worry, it's right here. Mega show is going to be right here. Until next week, let's bet on it.
Welcome back to another week of NFL TNA. I am Ralph Michaels for Wager Talk TV. We're going to break down how big of an advantage to have back-to-back home games in the NFL, and is it a disadvantage to play back-to-back road games? We're going to look at the healthiest and unhealthiest NFL teams. Does that translate to winning and losing? And we're going to finish it off with 3 monster systems: 66%, 71%, and 74%. So let's get to this week's NFL TNA. How many times do you read, oh, this team is in a positive situation because they're playing a second straight home game? Or it seems automatically people say this NFL team is in a negative situation because they're playing a second straight road game. Well, you know, we want to dissect the data, and are those myths true or not? Let's take a look. I went back to 2019. You'll see on the left-hand side of the chart are those teams playing a second straight road game in the NFL. On the right-hand side, playing back-to-back home games. So blindly, since 2019, back-to-back away teams have outperformed back-to-back home teams. Back-to-back on the road, 51.2% against the spread. Back-to-back home, exactly 50%. 239 ATS wins, 239 ATS losses with 10 pushes. In the middle there, you see P:WF. That means their previous game they won as a favorite, previous game lost as a favorite, won as a dog, and lost as a dog. So in those categories, let's take a look below. You'll see I highlighted 3 records, 1 in green, 2 in red, Let's check them out. Looking at back-to-back away teams, if they lost the first game of a 2-game road trip as a favorite, they have bounced back, which makes sense. 37-26 against the spread, 59%. But if they're playing back-to-back away games and they lost the first game as a dog, only 83-94, 47%. When we look at back-to-back home teams, you're going to see 3 of the 4 are right around the Mendoza line. But those teams, it is a small sample size with only 40 games. But those teams that won their first of 2 straight home games as an underdog, only 16-22, 42.1%. Below, you see I listed 2 separate categories. So these are questions people ask me very often. If an NFL team is playing a back-to-back home game versus an NFL team playing their second straight road game, guess what? The home team only 66-76, 46.5% against the spread. And in that same situation, if the home team is off a win and the away team is off a loss, guess what? The home team off the win is 43% against the spread. And we're going to talk about New England. They're away for a 3rd straight game. Is that a negative? Yes, it is. While back-to-back road games are right around 50%, a 3rd straight road game is a stress on the team. Those teams have only gone 43-54, 44.3%. And if you're playing a 3rd straight road game and you're off a win, like New England is, they are only 22-38 with 1 push, 37% against the spread. So don't worry about fading back-to-back aways, except if they're off a loss as a dog. Do not give extra credence for teams playing back-to-back home games. Back-to-back aways beat back-to-back homes, but a 3rd straight road is a negative. Guys, off another incredible football weekend. Listen to these numbers. My overall run, 43-25, 63%. College football, 31-15, 67%. College football plays 4% and 5%, 16-6, 73%. College football sides 4% and higher, 10-1, 91%. I cashed my 5% NFL play last week. I will have another NFL 5% teaser. NFL 5% plays, 7-1, 88%. Since last October, a complete calendar year, #1 at Wager Talk on football 5%, 18-5, 78%. And listen to this teaser record. All my teasers, 26-7, 79%. My teasers 4% and higher, 17-3, 85%. Grab my Weekend Warrior now. It's $49. And I have plays loaded, so as soon as you sign up for that Weekend Warrior today, every play that I already have uploaded, you will receive it. And as soon as I start releasing the rest of my plays, you will have them as well. I always release all of my Saturday college football by Friday. I always release all of my Sunday NFL by Saturday. 5%, 7-1, 88%. NFL teasers 4% and higher, 17-3, 85%. #1 at Wager Talk, football 5%. Don't miss out. The Weekend Warrior, only $49. And oh yeah, by the way, if I have a Monday NFL play, it will be included for free. Well, we know injuries impact NFL teams tremendously. But how hard is it to quantify how injured a team is? Well, this is a big chart, guys, and I will post this on Twitter at CalSportsLV. And here's what the chart is telling us for this 2025 football season. It has the first column, how many players have played at least one play this season? The second column, how many players have played at least one play on offense with the rank? How many players have played at least one play on defense? And how many players have played at least one play in special teams? You'll see the best teams are in green, those that have used the fewest players. So overall, the NFL teams that have used the fewest players so far, number 1, Kansas City with 53. Number 2, Green Bay, also tied for number 2, the LA Rams. So those three clearly, heads and shoulders, we can say the most healthiest teams. To compare, KC has used 53 players. Detroit has used 65, 12 additional players overall. Now let's take a look at the offense. Atlanta and the LA Rams have used only 21 players on offense. 5 teams have used only 22. Who's at the bottom of that list? Well, the Minnesota Vikings have already used 29 players on offense. So let's break that down. Atlanta and the Rams have used 21 players. So that means every first string player and 10 second string players. They have not even gone to a third string. They may have, but we're just talking overall numbers. Minnesota, 29 players. You have 11 players on offense. So every first string player is played, every second string player is played, and 7 third string players may have saw action as well. That's a big number there. On defense, well, guess what? Green Bay, 21 defensive players used. Yes, they have a good defense. Atlanta, 23 players used. They have the NFL's number 1 defense. Tampa Bay, 23 players used. They're up there as well. So Green Bay, 21 players on defense, all the first string and 10 second strings. At the bottom of that list, Indianapolis have used 31 defensive players already. So every first string, every second string, and 9 third string players. That's a big number this early in the season. Special teams, I don't put as much credence in that, but as a team wears down, you see some teams breaking down the special teams. For example, Kansas City has used the fewest players, 38. Detroit has used 56 players. So Detroit has used 18 additional players on special teams versus the Chiefs. Massive, massive number this early into the season. Again, to take a look at this chart, head to Twitter at CalSportsLV, and I'll have it posted there for you to take some more time looking at it. Before we get to our 3 monster systems, I want to say thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video. Guys, the comments that you leave not only helps our algorithms, it helps me provide you stats, numbers, situations that you want to learn about, making us all better betters. Hit that like button and make sure you're following Wager Talk TV, Wager Talk TikTok, and all the social media networks. Over 300,000 people follow Wager Talk. Be part of this great group of followers. Well, let's get to our 3 super systems for this week. Well, it's only appropriate. I'm talking about teams off a second straight away game. The Texans, on the road, they're off an away win. In this case, though, Seattle is also off a road game, and we have a line between the 3.5s. So the Texans are from +3.5 to -3.5. They're on the road. They won on the road last week, and the Seahawks were also on the road. So 2 competitive teams, both had to travel this week. The over-under in this case, since 2021, 13 overs and 36 unders. That is 73.5% to the under. System 1 says Texans and Seahawks under the total. Well, the Giants are coming off a Thursday night game, and boy, did they play well, pulling the upset. So how do NFL teams do that pulled a sizable upset as an underdog of 6.5 or more? And now they're an underdog again of 6.5 or more. Giants win as a dog. They were plus 6.5 or higher. This week they play the Broncos. Again, they fall in that parameter where they're plus 6.5 and higher. Since 2010, those NFL teams off that sizable upset and a sizable dog again, only 22 and 53 with one push, 29.3% against the spread. And FYI, they're only 6 and 70. That is 8% straight up. So they don't get those wins very often. They don't cover very often. Again, they have failed to cover over 70% of the time. System 2 says to fade the New York Giants. And a couple of weeks ago, guys, we talked about teams coming off buys, teams before buys. Well, this is a before the buy situation. And if you did not see that pre-buy video, go back and check it from 2 weeks ago. You'll be happy you did. You'll be surprised at some of those results. So when we have a road team playing a division opponent and they have a bye on deck, when teams are going to spend that week off with their family and friends, it motivates them to play well. If they're on the road versus the division foe, it motivates them even more. Those teams on the road versus the division foe with a bye on deck, going back to 2010, are 45 and 23, 66.2% against the spread. I'm mentioning it now. Week 7, it applies to the Raiders and the Chiefs. Week 8, it applies to the Bucs and the Saints. Week 10, it applies to the Saints versus the Panthers. So the Bucs week 8, Saints week 10, Raiders week 7, right down the system. It's one of my favorites. You'll be glad you did. Hit that like button, follow us on Wager Talk TV, and make sure you're checking out my Weekend Warrior so you don't miss another NFL winner or one of my monster NFL teasers that are now 17 and 3, 85%. Thanks for tuning in.
So my clients and I cashed a winning bet with the Chicago Bears on Monday Night Football this week versus Washington. Chicago blew a double-digit lead, but they rallied back and got the straight-up win as an underdog as well as the point spread cover. Third straight winning cover for Chicago since their 0-2 start. I sold the Bears once already this season. I think it was my second stock watch this year. Hasn't played out like I thought. That being said, let's sell the Bears again here, now. And of course, they're laying more than a field goal this week. You know, they have Baltimore, Cincy, and the Giants after that. They could be laying points more than once in the next couple of weeks. And if they're dogs, they won't be catching big points. The win versus Washington, asterisks everywhere. Look, they went only 1 of 3 in the red zone. They committed 9 penalties, but the offense didn't turn the ball over. The defense forced 3. The Bears probably lose that game straight up, maybe against the spread, if it wasn't for a bad exchange between Jaden Daniels and Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt on Washington's final drive. It was 3rd and 1 at the Bears' 40 at the time of the fumble, and it had nothing to do with Chicago. It was just a bad exchange. You know, Washington punted once in that ball game, by the way. Previous win, identical 25-20 score right here in Las Vegas against the Raiders. The Raiders had a season high in rushing yards against Chicago's defense. The Bears, by the way, number 31 against the run. Yards per carry, by the way, is the meaningful stat, not yards allowed. The Raiders, they don't have a good offense. They punted once in that game. They outgained Chicago 6.9 to 4.2 yards per play. But what happened? The Bears forced 4 turnovers, plus 3 in the game. They also blocked the field goal, ended up winning by 1. So that's plus 6 the last 2 games in turnovers in games they won by exactly 1 point. All right. The win over Dallas the week before that, the Cowboys had more yards. What happened there? The Bears were +4 in turnovers. In that game, the offense didn't commit any. So they've gone 3-0 straight up and against the spread the last 3 weeks, but their last 3 games, but they're +10 in turnovers during that span. That's unsustainable. They're not a team built to win the turnover battle, not with a young quarterback and a rebuilt defense. So that's, in my mind, a +10 turnover margin over a 3-week span, 3-game span, is as extreme as it gets. Let's sell high on this team. They're not as good as their recent final scores would indicate, and their statistical profile tells us that pretty clearly.
Want to know which teams are getting upset this week? We're going to break down some top 25 games. We're going to get into some best bets. That Deli is still open. I hear the ding. And of course, that freight train with the steam report from VR is coming in nice and hot. Up next on Bet on It. We are halfway through college football season and it feels surreal, but we're going to keep those top 25 games going here. I'm Kelly Stewart, joined by Yanni the Greek and Marco D'Angelo of wagertalk.com. Marco, I'm going to let you go first. We're going to get right into this one. I think this is kind of a head scratcher. Noon Eastern, number 10, LSU catching 2.5 at number 17, Vanderbilt, 49.5. I think the initial reaction is, what am I missing here? I bet against LSU last week in a heartbreaking fashion. We did not get the spread covered, and I kind of said that in the Barking Dog segment, so I must have put that in the universe. But the universe is telling me this one is Vandy all the way, baby. Tell me why we got to lay the 2.5.
Well, Kelly, I mean, you're exactly right. When you look at this, first of all, you say LSU and you say Vanderbilt, and you're like, what? Vanderbilt? How are they favorite? Then if you look at the rankings, you got those numbers in front of these two teams. LSU's number 10, Vanderbilt's number 17. So again, you say, why is Vanderbilt favorite? Then you look at the series history, and LSU has absolutely owned this series over Vanderbilt. And again, you're scratching your head. But I'm going to tell you, this Vanderbilt team, they're good. Their only loss was to Alabama, 30-14. And that was a big revenge game for Alabama. If you remember the year before, Vanderbilt knocked off Alabama. Vandy has had 2 weeks to regroup from that Alabama game, and that's important. If it would have been the very next week, I wouldn't be as high on Vanderbilt. As we always say, sometimes you can lose that same game twice. Well, they've had that extra week to get over it. And I look at this one, this LSU defense, they've played good. There's no question about it. But they're going to be tested by this Vandy offense. Alabama was the only team all year to hold Vanderbilt below 31 points. Think about that. This team is putting up points like crazy. Now, the LSU offense, that's another story. Are they going to be able to trade points with Vanderbilt if they don't get enough stops? Because this LSU offense has scored 23 or fewer points in 5 of their 6 games. And just make sure you don't ask Brian Kelly after the game about the offense, because he'll go off on you. But I think Vanderbilt is ready to – this is their coming out party against LSU. Yes, people are going to say, well, they couldn't beat Alabama. Are we really going to say LSU and Alabama are on equal footing? No. Alabama's playing better football. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to take Vanderbilt. I think the offense is built to win, and they're going to do it this week. I got Vanderbilt winning 31-20.
Speaking of Alabama, I almost used them for VR, and I went back and forth, and I said, no, I think this Ole Miss Georgia game is going to be better. 3:30 p.m. Eastern, number 5 Ole Miss catching just over a touchdown at Georgia. 54.5 here is the total VR. I'm not going to lie. I kind of just want to take Ole Miss on the money line, loving what Lane Kiffin's doing. Georgia, Alabama, the parity, as we've talked about before on the show, the cream is rising.
Yep.
Except now it's not. All of the SEC is taking a step forward, and a couple of the big dogs have taken a step back.
Well, this is how I've made my money so far in college football in these marquee games. It's taken advantage of the overrated, overvalued, overranked against the undervalued, underrated, underranked team. And here's another perfect example of that, where you have an Ole Miss team that's top 5 in the rankings, but that's not their power rating. And you have a Georgia team that's barely in the top 10 in the rankings, but their power ratings are a lot better. In fact, where I have Georgia right now, I'll tell you, I don't think there's more than 3 or 4 teams that would be favored over Georgia on a neutral field. Those teams are Ohio State, Notre Dame. Yes, Notre Dame, I said it. Alabama and Oregon. They lost to Alabama, which, again, a 5-1 Alabama team, knew how good Alabama was. If Georgia's able, with that run defense, to force Ole Miss into being more one-dimensional to where they have to throw the football, they're going to be in a lot of trouble with the pressure that Georgia's going to be able to put on them and the secondary. Georgia's defense is 3rd in efficiency in all of college football. Mississippi has not faced anything like this all season. In fact, Mississippi comes in with the 32nd toughest strength of schedule already, compared to Georgia, who's played the 4th toughest strength of schedule. Everything points to Georgia here. The line move as well, now up over a touchdown. I gave it out to my subscribers at 6.5 or 7. I think you're good at 7. At 7.5, if you agree with me, buy the half a point, only up to 125. Otherwise, lay the 7.5 at -110 because the half point isn't worth that much. So go ahead, take Georgia, who will continue to rise in the rankings because we have a long enough college football season where the phonies, these fake teams, not saying Mississippi is, but the overrated, overvalued based on their record, they'll start getting some losses. They'll start dropping. And these 1-loss teams, even 2-loss teams like Notre Dame, will start climbing. So give me Georgia, lay the points. Don't tease it, even though I like them on the money line. Take Georgia.
Oh, I know you tried to walk that back, but it kind of sounded like to me you said Ole Miss was a phony. VR. I may have to take a second look at that game. Another game that I had to take a second look at, 7:30 p.m. Eastern, number 20, USC catching 9.5, headed into Notre Dame. 61.5 here is the total. And look, bottom line, Lincoln Riley and the USC Trojans have a quarterback once again. 2nd in all of college football, 1st in yards per play, 13 touchdowns on the season. And so I can understand why here we are looking at maybe saying this is too many points with the Trojans. But if you guys remember, I bet against USC headed into Illinois and they lost that game outright. What did Lincoln Riley do? Oh, wait, he complained about that early start time. But those trips east have not fared very well, including when they just struggled against Purdue. Since joining the Big Ten, and this is from our friends over at the Gold Sheet, USC 2-5 straight up, 1-6 against the spread in true road games, with 5 outright losses as a favorite. So keep that one in your back pocket. Yes, they are a sizable underdog here. But as VR just mentioned, Notre Dame is actually power rated much higher. They arguably had a shaky start, but who did they play? Undefeated Miami, undefeated A&M. The Irish defense since then has allowed 27 points. They beat up on Arkansas, Boise State, and NC State. And normally I am not a chalk-eating weasel, but let's just be honest. I'm also not going to bet the underdog with fleas, and I think that is what the Trojans are here. So if I'm going to play it, as Teddy Covers likes to say, I'm going to lay it. You guys are enjoying Bet on It so far. Please give us that like, hit that subscribe button. Jump in the comment sections. I told Marco and VR going forward, we all have to jump in there so we can argue amongst ourselves. We can agree with each other, but let us know if you think we're right or wrong about these early TV games. VR, every single Sunday, you are in the steam room here on the Wager Talk YouTube channel, and you're giving out up to the minute data. You are giving up late plays. You are saying, here's these major line moves. Here's what we need to be looking at. And on Wednesdays here on Bet on It and the College Football Edition, you let us know what these wise guys are doing early in the week. I'm going to start off with a question because I want the answer to it as well. Marco asked you kind of about this two-way action, so to speak, on a Friday night game, Nebraska, Minnesota. Can you start there, please?
Yeah, and that's actually the first game we're going to cover. Nebraska opened 6.5, got slammed right away. They hit the 7 and 7.5. That's a big, big play when you see them hit that through that key number. That moved it up to 8.5, 9. That's when you started seeing the Minnesota money come in. So we saw Minnesota yesterday +9, +8.5. Heavy steam on Minnesota after the Nebraska side got bet up. I personally like the group that bet the Minnesota side more. They don't middle games much. They don't scout money lines much. They take more truer positions. So I think when this line got a little bit too high, they stepped in and took the points with Minnesota. Another Friday game that we're seeing dog love, UNC at 11.5 and 10.5. Move over to Saturday action. 3:30, Miami, Ohio, -11.5, -12 and 12.5. Pay attention to those that continue to move. 3:35, Old Dominion. Anytime Old Dominion's moving up to 2.5, it gets picked off. That's why it's sitting there at 1.5 right now. 3:49, Georgia Tech. This is one of those that I love to pay attention to. The initial move when the limits were low. Remember, when they first pushed these up, dude, some of these limits are like a nickel, okay? They dummied up the Georgia Tech line. So they dummied up Duke at 2.5 to 3. That's when all that Georgia Tech steam came in at Georgia Tech +3. The piggybackers are taking the 2.5 and 2. That's why it's sitting at where it is right now. But that was a beautiful maneuver on the Georgia Tech side to get that field goal. 3:58, Syracuse +11.5, +11 and under. Seems correlated. Lower scoring game, 11 points seems like a lot. 3:61, Central Michigan +6, 5.5 and 5. Vanderbilt, bringing that game up because it's another situation where we're seeing two-way sharp action, and it makes sense. First move was on Vanderbilt at -1, 1.5, 2. When 3 popped up on the board, obviously it's a key number. Another group swooped in and took LSU +3. Shows you just how tight some of these lines are. These are two groups that are both profitable long-term. One sees value at -1. The other one sees value at +3. Two completely different bets on the same game. Boise, 370. Boise, -10.5, 11, 11.5, and 12. Every half-point increment, they didn't move it fast enough. Boise's getting hit. UCLA, -2.5 and -3. Laid the 3 there against Maryland. Wyoming, 405. This one, just like the Georgia Tech. Love when I see this happen. Got dummied up on the Air Force side. It was 5.5. Bet it up took probably a nickel bet. Get it to 6. That's when all that Wyoming steam came in. Piggybackers are taking the 5 and the 4.5s, but the official move was at 6. And finally, 4:15, USC +8.5 and 8. That got down to that key number. Didn't get to the key number, forgive me. They didn't wait for the key number of 7 on Notre Dame. Instead, they came in and laid the 7.5, 8, 8.5, 9 on Notre Dame. So a lot of love on the Notre Dame side. That's so far what we have up until Wednesday. Pay attention tomorrow. That's when all those totals get hit. So odds logic screens should be up, and you'll get a lot of total moves to take advantage of.
Absolutely. oddslogic.com/ace. Get you a free week's trial. You guys should look into it. Even if it's only for a week, it will change the way you bet and the way you shop for lines. All right, barking dog time, and it would appear on the only one that didn't have a double-digit underdog. And I looked really hard, and then I realized Marco had one that I liked, and then I realized VR had one that I liked. And so, well, I have the Chihuahua this week. But Marco, you have the biggest underdog, so you're going to go first. Not going to lie, I scratched this one off of my list early in the week, and then I thought, maybe Marco thinks I should be looking at it again. Marco, tell me why you think Syracuse is live.
Well, Pitt made a change at quarterback 2 games back, and it's paid huge dividends as Mason Heiskell has led Pitt to back-to-back wins. In his first start, he threw for 331 yards in a 48-7 win. But beating Boston College, that's not that impressive. They're not having a good year. But last week, they went to Florida State, and maybe they caught a Florida State team that had that hangover effect from losing a game the week before. But they went in a shootout, 10.5-point underdog. They beat Florida State on the road, 34-31, and he had another big day passing the football. Now you take a team second week in a row on the road, going from an underdog that won outright to now being a favorite on the road. Hey, that's, something that I don't like. I love fading those type of teams. You want to fade a fat and sassy road favorite, and that's what we've got here. Syracuse has been their own worst enemy in their last couple games. They went into the bye week coming off 2 games in which they had 6 turnovers in the last 2 games. You turn the ball over that many times, you're going to lose football games. But as I always say, teams that go into the bye week on a bad note generally are going to come out of that bye week with a good performance. And I think given the extra week to prepare, couple that with playing a fat and sassy Pitt team, you've got the makings of a very, very live underdog here. I'm going to go ahead and, although Pitt's putting up points, their defense is giving up points too. I'm not going to lay points on the road with Pitt. Give me Syracuse. This one should be a barn burner. Let's call it Syracuse 31-30.
Ooh, all right. VR, you are stepping in front of a freight train. And I'm going to do that in the best bet segment. But this one is like a real freight train. This is a team that I picked right here on the show, 12-1 to win the Big 12. I feel like I'm sitting pretty, but you think they're on upset alert this week.
Yeah, and this is another one I released to my subscribers at +10, 4% play on Arizona State. Listen, we could talk X's and O's and all the handicapping, but it's as simple as what I've been repeating throughout the entire season so far. Take advantage of that ranked team based on their record that is not as good as they appear. And Texas Tech, another perfect example of that. They're 6-0. Guess what? They should be 6-0. The only tough game they had was against Utah. And based on that Utah result is why we're getting such a gift with Arizona State, because we have a common opponent in Utah. And just last week, we saw Arizona State get blown out by Utah. And on the flip side, that was the biggest win for Texas Tech. But if you compare what the line was for those games and you compare what this line is, you will notice there's been about a 4+ point adjustment on the Texas Tech side. And we know you should never overreact to any single result. There's a lot of randomness that could happen in a 60-minute football game. So that adjustment just isn't warranted. Why is Texas Tech 6-0? Because they've had an easy schedule. In fact, as far as difficulty goes, it's the 56th toughest schedule in college football so far. So again, this is a 6-0 team that should be 6-0. Now they're going to start to get tested. And when you have a defense that's only 39th in efficiency, laying double digits is a lot to ask for, even against an Arizona State offense, which isn't, top 10 or anything like that. But they are top 30 defensively. And we saw even against Utah, they did really good against the pass. And it was the running game that did the damage. Well, we know what Texas Tech does. It's an aerial assault. They're decently balanced, but it's through the air that they do most of the damage. That's where I think Arizona State's defensive strengths lie. So there's a lot to like on the Arizona State side. Finally, Morton, quarterback for Texas Tech, not 100%. That worries me a little bit. That's why we're seeing this line drop. I would like him to play, so there's not, that injured player that Marco teaches us about to take advantage of. But yeah, I like Arizona State here. Double digits was a gift. 8.5, I would still bet it. I would just smaller bet, because I think anything over 7 is the right side on Arizona State at home.
Woo! All right. I don't like to hear that for my futures bet, but I would argue that Arizona State at least was on my long list for this week. And another team that was on my long list, but I was a little hesitant because I was like, okay, are they going to fire Billy Napier? What is going on in Gainesville? We've been hearing lots of different rumblings out of there. And as I mentioned earlier, the idea of the Barking Dog segment is, hey, we're going to look for teams that have a shot to win outright. But ideally, I don't think there should be a sweat for them to cover. Yet every single week, that's what I've been giving you guys, is an absolute and utter painful barking dog. So buckle up and be prepared for heartbreak. Mississippi State +8.5 And I know this has been one of the best ATS teams dating back to the middle of last season. 11-3 against the spread. They have outright wins this season over Arizona State and took Tennessee to overtime as a 7.5-point dog just a few weeks ago. I love this team because what do? They run the ball almost 58% of the time. So when that ball's on the ground, that clock keeps going, making points at a premium. DJ Lagway, can he beat a team not named Texas? We're going to find out. He may also be good for a pick against this defense. That's right. Take the better defense plus the points. You guys know I'm a sucker for that situation. So give me the plus 8.5. And of course, sprinkle just a little bit on that money line. Marco, another dog that I liked on the money line, made your sandwich game of the week, the Deli, 18-11.
Yum.
Just cruising right along. Hasn't had to be condemned one time.
Yes, Deli. Check out Marco's Deli every week. We release that on Thursday, late Thursday, and it's been good. We've had 6 weeks. We've had 4 winning weeks, 1 winning week, and 2 in 1 week. And it depends. We graded the game as a push last week. Missouri, that was the push +3, but that line was 3.5s were available everywhere. So I think everybody got to the window and got a win on that one. But check it out. It's free. We give you games that were in consideration for this segment on Bet On It, and then a few more in the NFL version. We've given you 4 college plays each week, 1 NFL play. The NFL played another winner last week with Carolina over the Cowboys. Now 5-1 on the season with the NFL plays on the Deli. So check that out. For the sandwich this week here for Bet On It, we got a tasty one, Kelly. We're going to go to South Carolina, and this one is simple. We've got Oklahoma's coming off their first loss of the season. They lost to Texas last week in the Red River Shootout. We talk about it all the time. When a team plays a big game, they come up short. They have a tendency they can lose that same game twice. They come out with that hangover effect, flat, whatever terminology you want to use. That is enough for me to start looking at fading Oklahoma. But what really seals the deal for me in this game is look at what Oklahoma has on deck. You're coming off your big rivalry game against Texas, and next week you've got a top 5 matchup against Ole Miss. Now, obviously, if Ole Miss loses this week, they won't be in the top 5, but you look at what's in front of you, and Ole Miss is one of the top teams in the country in the rankings. So talk about a sandwich game. You go from Texas to play South Carolina, and then you got Mississippi on deck. Yeah, that is a monster sandwich. And if you look at South Carolina, they hung tough last week with LSU. They lost 20-10. They probably deserved a better result in that game. They played well enough. I think they could have covered that game easily, depending on, that line drop during the week. But I'm going to go ahead and take South Carolina here. I like this team. They're gritty. I think they give Oklahoma a battle here. Give me those points with South Carolina. I got them actually pulling an upset, 23-20. Go Gamecocks.
Yeah, Marco, I just text our producer, Lou, and I said, hey, I'm so sorry. Because last week I did the same thing. I'm so sorry. You guys are going to lose in heartbreaking fashion once again. But they're going to get us that cover, Marco. They owe it to us after last week. Before we get into best bets, I got to tell you guys about Flex Picks. If you guys have never heard about Flex Picks, they give you the ultimate flexibility to access the daily picks that you want from the experts that you trust. First, you're going to choose your handicapper. Then you're going to get full access for the day. So you can plan ahead or go day by day when you log in and make your pick schedule. Keep in mind, anytime you can switch up your expert up until the plays are released. And then, of course, you can skip days at your convenience. So if you have a 30-day Flex Picks package, it doesn't have to be used in 30 consecutive days. Right now, 30 days, just $249 over at wagertalk.com. And if you're a little shy and you just want to try it out for 3 or 7 days, you can do that as well, or partner up for the entire year for $14.99 VR. Before we get into your best bet for this week in college football, let everybody know what you have up over at wagertalk.com.
Indeed. I have my college football package up with a 5% big move. My first 5% in college football in weeks. currently number one in college football, up about 100 units, only one losing week. There have been 8 weeks of college football so far, won 7 of those, or 7 weeks, won 6 of those. Regardless, it's been a great college football season. That's up. There's about 4 plays already in that package. NFL just released today the first 2 premiums. That package will be up as well for Sunday's action. Don't forget, we're coming off 2-0 sweep of 5% big moves last week in the NFL. It was warranted and went 7-1 on 4%. So running really good in football. Those packages are up for Saturday and Sunday, but don't forget throughout the week, coming in off a 4% winner on the over in Liberty last night, those primetime games have been money. And of course, I'll be in Vancouver for UFC up there on Saturday, so I'll have that card as well. Just a great time to jump on board. Major League Baseball playoffs. We have the Seattle Mariners to win the AL for 40 units pending, and then 100 units pending on Seattle to win the World Series. So the good couple weeks ahead for us. Jump on board.
All right. You've been doing well with these totals, and you have another total best bet for us this week.
Yeah, and I'm going to take advantage of it looks low based on a little bit of recency bias. What I mean by that is you have a Maryland and UCLA team that are coming in off of high-scoring games where both offenses were able to put over 30 points up. So you're going to see a little skewed total based on that, and that's exactly what we're looking at. Because if you look at Maryland's totals throughout the year, they've been low. In fact, 3 of the last 5 totals for their games were lined below 50. And the same thing with UCLA. In fact, 2 of their last 3 were lined below 49. So you see the adjustment the market's made, trying to correct itself off of that recency bias. Rest assured, the public's going to bet this total over. I like what I'm seeing out of the UCLA defense, one of the best defenses in college football. That's correct. Against one of the toughest schedules, 13th toughest strength of schedule, and a solid defense, getting better. Again, when you're a UCLA team, you're not going to be in the top, 20, but if you can make it into the top 30 or 40, you're doing pretty good. And I think UCLA is doing exactly that. Maryland's a top 35 defense as well. They've gotten a little bit lucky though with turnovers. I think they're the highest positive turnover differential. That turns into points, but that luck always is going to even out. I think they're plus 10 in fumbles. Like they've gotten really lucky. But here's what sticks out the most, that UCLA's points have come with their efficiency in the red zone. They've converted on 95% of red zone opportunities. Well, they're going up against arguably one of the best red zone defenses in college football in Maryland, who actually stops 72% of trips in the red zone from scoring. So it's the perfect storm to get a much lower scoring game than this total reflects. And anything below 51, above 51, I think offered value. We're looking at 52 and a halves right now. Got to go under.
All right, Marco, you also have a total. This is fun. I like mixing it up here on a Wednesday afternoon. But before you give us this winning total, please let me know what you've got up at wagertalk.com.
Well, Kelly, we got a special going for the rest of the season. There's 10 weeks left in 2025. And we've put together a package that's going to get you every play I release in every sport. Why is that such a big deal? Well, next week, the NBA starts. Hockey's underway. They started last week. College basketball is just around the corner. And of course, we got college and pro football. Since 2020, I'm the #1 NBA handicapper at Wager Talking Money One. Since 2021, I'm the #1 NHL handicapper in Money One at Wager Talk. We're #2 in college and NFL the last 2 seasons in football. So you're getting all of the major sports for the rest of the year. And if you bought by the week, it's $99 a week. That would cost you $990. We're going to give you the rest of 2025 for $449. Join us now. Head over to Wager Talk. Go to my homepage. You'll be able to get that special. That's all sports, all plays. including all of those big 5% plays. And we hit a 5% last week. Again, we had a 5% with Tampa Bay. They got the money against San Francisco, and we got another 5% coming this weekend. No better time to jump on board. For my total, it hit my best bet, Kelly. We're going to take a look at, going to stay close to home and look at the UNLV Boise State game. Now, this one's actually going to be in Boise. UNLV will be traveling there. And when you look at this game at first glance, and this is why you can't overreact to 1 week's results, but people are going to look at this game. They're going to look and see UNLV was in a 51-48 shootout last week, and Boise State was in a 41-25 blowout. And this total 62.5. There's only one way for us to go. Go to the over in this one. No, not so fast, guys. And the problem is this is a game that basically is a playoff game. The winner of this game is most likely the winner of the Mountain West Conference. And if that winner of the Mountain West Conference happens to be UNLV, they're probably going to be undefeated because the rest of their schedule is pretty easy. And that would put them in line to get into the playoff picture. Boise State, we know their dominance of UNLV over the years. And the reason their dominance has been their physicality. You look at last week's game, and that's the 51-48 shootout with UNLV. That was a game we were all over Air Force and the team total in that game because this year Air Force almost has an unstoppable offense. We know how hard it is to defend the option. Teams don't see it that often, and then you got to prepare for it in 1 week. It's tough to do. But this year, not only do they have that offense rolling with the option attack, they've got a legitimate passing game, does Air Force. So UNLV had no shot of stopping Air Force last week. Plus, they had this game on deck with Boise State. This will be a totally different game play because Boise State is going to play smash mouth football against UNLV. That's what's beat UNLV all these years. They're going to stick to the formula. Plus, with everything, the implications of the winner of this game, they're going to play the game a little close to the vest, not to make an early mistake and fall behind. I love this total under 62.5. We're getting a premium number because of an overreaction. This game will be played in the low 50s at best, in my opinion. Go under 62.5. UNLV, Boise State is my best bet.
All right, and I have a best bet that I wanted to put in the Barking Dog segment, and then I thought, well, my Barking Dog's always in my parlay, and I can't use a Friday night game for my parlay. So we're going to use it as our best bets. Louisville, if you guys remember, plus 750 was my ACC champion from our college football preview show. Now, that might not come to fruition, but I think the Cardinals still have a shot at it. But prior to their bye, Louisville lost to Virginia in overtime, and that probably derailed things a little bit. But speaking of derailing, we've got a Miami freight train, 5-0 straight up, 4-1 against the spread, and that was against top 10 teams. Maybe Notre Dame was a top 10 team, according to VR. South Florida, top 25 maybe. Florida and Florida State. Let's pump the brakes here. I know Louisville has been beat up all season. They've had several cluster injuries specifically on the offense, but I do trust Jeff Brom and his ability to draw up a game plan against Mario Cristobal. I'm taking the points, 13.5 of them on Friday night in Coral Gables, where the road team has won and covered each of the last 3 meetings. Do I think that they can spring the upset? As a matter of fact, I do. So don't forget to sprinkle just a little bit on that Louisville money line. All right, guys, we appreciate you hanging out with us every single week here on Bet On It. Please hit that like button, hit that subscribe. Make sure you guys are following VR and Marco on social media. We are here for you every week. So jump in the comments section. I am going to personally call both of them this week and tell them they need to reply to you one way or another. Even if I have to use a VR burner account because he's going to be in Vancouver for the UFC, we're going to reply. So you guys tell us what you think about the show. Love it, hate it, agree with us, disagree with us, help us out. because we're here for you. And of course, if you guys are looking for the NFL edition of Bet On, it's going to be right here. And the mega show, NFL, college football, TNA, Stock Watch, and Marco's Deli all together right there in one spot. Until next week, let's bet on it.
How many college football teams this season are 6-0 against the spread? How many are 0-6? How many teams are 6-0 to the over? How many have yet to have an over? Which conferences are best at home this year in conference action? And which have been the best over the last 4 years? And we're going to finish off this Wager Talk College Football TNA show with 4 college football systems: 82%, 73%, 73%, and 69%. Ralph Michaels, welcome to College Football Week number 8. Well, we're just going back to the basics here, guys. I was surprised how many people in the chat or left a comment. I just want to find out the best and worst ATS teams. Yes, that information is available anywhere, but it's always good to reaffirm as you're going into the weekend making your selections to find out which teams have been the best season to date. So let's take a look at the chart. First on the top, we see best ATS. This is season to date. Memphis and Texas Tech, both 6-0 ATS. Western Michigan, 6-1. At 5-1, we have a slew of teams: Boise, Iowa, La Tech, Miss State, Ohio State, Temple, Troy, Utah, Utah State, Virginia, and Western Kentucky. Well, worst against the spread. They are now coachless, at least without their traditional head coach with an interim. Penn State, 0-6 ATS. Baylor, Georgia State, UMass, and Minnesota, 1-5. Also 1-5, Northern Illinois, Sam Houston, SMU, Stanford, and Virginia Tech. The top overs. Folks, Air Force is just an over machine. Their offense is in the top 10. Their defense is in the bottom 15. Their reason they're 6-0 over under this year. Pittsburgh also 6 overs, no unders. Those teams that 5 of their 6 games have gone over the total: Duke, Florida State, Georgia Southern, and Missouri. Also 5 overs and 1 under: Navy, Nebraska, Rutgers, Tennessee, and Virginia. Top unders: Northern Illinois and Oklahoma, both 0 overs and 6 unders this season. Teams with 1 over and 5 unders: Auburn, East Carolina, James Madison, Kennesaw State, Liberty, LSU, La Tech, SMU, and Tulsa. And then taking a look at the best and worst favorites, the top favorites: Memphis and Texas Tech, 5-0. Illinois and Western Kentucky, 4-0. Penn State, all their games they've been favored, so they're 0-6. Baylor as a favorite is 0-5. Michigan State as a favorite is 0-4. And South Alabama and Virginia Tech, 0-3 against the spread. Before I get to the conference home records over the last 5 years, I do want to mention the Weekend Warrior, an incredible success. Check it out at wagertalk.com. The Weekend Warrior, just $49. You'll get all of my Saturday college football, all of my Sunday NFL, and if I have a Monday night football game in the NFL, you'll receive it as well. My college football run currently stands at 38-25, 63%. My college football plays 4% and higher, 16-6, 73%. And my college football sides 4% and higher, 10-1, 91%. I will have an NFL 5% this week. I cashed it last Sunday. NFL 5% plays 7-1, 88%. And my college football and NFL 5% plays combined, number 1 at Wager Talk the last calendar year since last October, 18-5, 78%. Lastly, NFL teasers, 26-7, 79%, but it gets even better. NFL teasers rated 4% or 5%, 17-3, 85%. Guys, don't wait to the weekend. I've already got plays loaded today. So Go to my homepage, WT.buzz/RM. Hit the Weekend Warrior. You'll instantly get all the plays I've already loaded. And as soon as I update the rest of my plays, you will get notified immediately. I always do have all of my Saturday college football loaded by Friday. And I do have all of my Sunday NFL loaded by Saturday. Well, let's take a look at chart number 2. These are conference home games by conference. So you see the first column is from 2022 through this season, 2025. And then you see the individual columns to see if it's an anomaly or if it is a long-term streak. Well, the top home team in conference games back to 2022 is CUSA at 56.2%. And you'll see 3 of the last 4 years, they've been a positive. The Pac-12, again, we won't take anything out of that. I did want to list the information, though. The Big 12 at home, all 4 seasons have been on the plus side. So strong home fields in the Big 12, overall 54.4%. You see the ACC this year is actually leaning towards the road teams, but the 4-year average 53%. And let's look at the bottom. The worst conference to bet the home team in over the last 4 years is the American Football Conference. Visitors have covered 54.5%, with last year the only positive number. So it's not going to say you're going to bet CUSA home teams. It's not going to say you're going to bet American Conference road teams, but it does give you a good feel on how strong home fields are. I do this chart a couple times a year, and I actually do adjust my home field edge for my power ratings based on these type of numbers. So hopefully they can get you just one extra winner this weekend. Well, before we finish this video off with our 4 super systems, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day to watch this video. I can't believe we're already to week 8 of college football. The season is just flying by. Hit the like button. If there's anything you want to see me run, be it in the NFL or be it for the college football bet on a TNA show, leave a comment. Many of the ideas I have for these charts come from you, the viewer. Thank you for bringing that up. Also, by leaving a comment, getting engaged, it helps our algorithms. It allows us to continue to do all this free content for you. And make sure you're following Wager Talk TV and Wager Talk among all their social media networks. Over 300,000 people follow Wager Talk. Be a part of that group. Well, let's get to it, folks. Let's finish off this segment with our 4 systems. Remember, you're never wanting to base a play solely on a system or a trend. But if you have a long-term trend with a large sample size and you like the play as well, that's what makes your play stronger. Perhaps you like a game and there's a strong system against you. Perhaps it's going to take you off that game. So don't use these to make bets. Use these to make your bets better or perhaps take you off a side if you agree with the system. First, let's talk about teams that have had awesome offenses. In the last 3 games, these teams have scored at least 159 points. They are now a favorite of a touchdown or more. The total is 56.5 or higher. And we're week number 5 or later. How about this number? 63, 14, and 1. Which team is 82% against the spread? In this situation, it's the South Florida Bulls. 159 plus points, favorite of 7 or more, total of 56 or higher, week 6 or later, USF, an 82% system. Away dogs. This system lost last time I had it on here, but I still do like it. It makes total sense to me, so I'm going to repeat it. Away dogs that lost as a favorite, but they rushed for over 200 yards, and they're now an away dog to plus 13. So we are getting rid of dogs, 2 touchdown dogs and higher. So you're an away dog up to plus 13. You're off a loss as a favorite, but you did rush for over 200 yards. Those teams are 44-16 against the spread since 2015. 2 teams apply. They're both in the MAC. Got some action here for the TNA. Northern Illinois and Central Michigan both fall into the 73.3 ATS system. I did a tweet earlier this week. Penn State was the first team in database history to lose back-to-back games as a 20-point favorite. I guess that's why you no longer have a head coach. But what have teams done after losing back-to-back games as a double-digit favorite? I went all the way back to 1994. Take a guess. How many college football teams have lost back-to-back games as a double-digit favorite? Well, the answer is now 43. There were 42 previous teams since 1994 to lose back-to-back games as a double-digit favorite. The next week, those teams have gone 9, 24, and 2, 27.3%. Only one team applies. It says to fade Penn State in this 27% ATS system. And let's finish off this Week 8 college football TNA video with our final system of the day. We are looking at teams that was -3 turnovers or more. They lost the game as a favorite, but they had a yardage edge. And now they are at home as an underdog or a favorite to -7. So which team had a bad turnover game plus yardage, but lost as a favorite, and now home as a dog or a small favorite? Those teams have gone 25-11. They bounced back off those bad turnover games. Which team does it apply to this week? TCU, our fourth and final system, 69.4%. The system favors TCU versus Baylor. Again, thank you so much for watching the video. Hit the like button, leave a comment. Make sure to check out my NFL TNA video, and I'll be back next week.
Who's hungry? The deli's open. Hey guys, Marco D'Angelo back here for another edition of Marco's Deli. It is the 7th episode of the season, powered by wagertalk.com, and it's been profitable, guys. We've gone 4-1-1 winning week-wise. Last week we had a 2-2-1 show for you. That push was Missouri against Alabama, but we put it out at +3 on the show. There were a ton of +3.5s out there, so I know a lot of you won that, but officially we are calling it a push for the show, and that brings the record for the season to 18-11, 62% winners. I've got 5 more winners for you today. Let's get started. We're going to get things kicked off with Purdue at Northwestern. Now, Northwestern has won 3 in a row, while Purdue has lost 4 in a row, yet Northwestern is only a 3-point home favorite. This line smells fishy, like they're begging you to take Northwestern. Well, I'm not going to fall for the trap. Is you have a Northwestern team coming off that monumental win last Saturday in Happy Valley as they knocked off Penn State and was the final nail in the coffin for James Franklin as he was fired the next day from Penn State. We got a fat and sassy Northwestern team here laying only 3 points to Purdue. I'm going to look for the live dog here, and this is a sandwich spot to go against Northwestern team here off that big upset. Let's go ahead and take Purdue +3 for play number 1. Play number 2, let's take a look at Mississippi State at Florida. Now, this is a bad scheduling spot for Florida. They're coming off playing Miami, Texas, and Texas A&M, all top 25 teams, and has Georgia up next in the annual rivalry game with Georgia, which used to be called the world's largest outdoor cocktail party. I think it's a horrible spot for them. We know that it's been a disappointing season for Florida. And when they're going to get up for a game, well, it's going to be one of those highly ranked teams. Mississippi State, not so much. This is a live underdog here. You've also had Mississippi State 2 weeks to prepare for this game as they're coming off a bye week. I think it's a great spot to take an inflated number with Mississippi State plus 9.5. Going for play number 3. Let's take a look at Texas at Kentucky. Now, another bad scheduling spot for Texas, who's coming off their biggest win of the season. Now, we said last week that Texas would show up for that game against Oklahoma, even though their national championship hopes kind of got crushed the week before. As we explained, playing their rival Oklahoma in that annual Red River Shootout, and the fact that Oklahoma was still undefeated, we felt Texas would show up for that game and try to knock Oklahoma off their undefeated season. Well, they accomplished that. Now you've got them going on the road to play a Kentucky team who's had 2 weeks to prepare for Texas. Now, Arch Manning, he had a good day passing, completing 21 of 27 passes. But if you look at the stats, he only had 166 yards. It's still a bunch of dinking and dunking with Arch Manning. He hasn't lived up to the hype. I think this is an absolutely horrible spot for Texas. I think they come out flat in this one. Kentucky playing at home at night. I give home teams playing at night versus playing in the daytime a little bit of more of a home field advantage because you get that pumped up crowd at night. I think this is a great spot for Kentucky to take Texas to the limit. Let's grab Kentucky plus the 12.5. Before we get to the last 2 plays, guys, let's do a little business here. First, I want to thank you guys for tuning in. I really appreciate the way the channel is growing. More and more of you are finding the channel, and that only happens with your help. And what I mean by that is I need you to give us that thumbs up. If you like watching these videos and what we're putting forth here, it doesn't cost you anything. Just hit the like button. It really helps the algorithm out for the channel. Also, leave me a comment. That helps the algorithms as well. Last week, I asked you guys, tell me where you're from. I love hearing where everybody is watching us from. Tell me where you're at. Tell me who your favorite team is. If you got a question, ask me. I'll come in and answer it in the comments. Tell me what you like about the show, what you don't like, maybe what's something else you'd like to see. We want to build this channel. We want to get Marco's Deli, get a cult-type following, guys. I love bringing you this information. And if you like it, do me the favor and give me that thumbs up. Now, if you really like what we're doing and you want to be a part of my premium plays, well, I got a deal for you too. We've been telling you every week about that Weekend Warrior package. You can pick up Saturday and Sunday's football for $49. Get everything college and pro football Saturday and Sunday. And if I have a Monday night play, like I did last week, we had a big 4% play on Chicago, one of our strongest Monday night plays of the season. It's included free on Monday night. But if you want all of my play, and that Weekend Warrior's $49. But if you want all of my plays, the way to go, guys, I've got a special deal for you right now. The rest of 2025, there's 10 weeks left of the season. Now, if you want all of my plays, not just the football plays, you want my NBA plays, you want my college basketball that's going to be starting soon, you want our NHL plays, this is the way to go. Guys, since 2020, I'm number 1 in the NBA in Money One at Wager Talk. Since 2021 in hockey, it was 2020 in basketball in the NBA. Since 2021 in hockey, we're number 1 in hockey in Money One. You know what we've been doing in football. Get it all. $99 a week is what it costs for all of my plays. That would be $990 if you bought weekly. Right now, you can get the rest of 2025. Every play I release, every sport, for just $449. That's less than $50 a week, guys. Hey, you're paying $49 per weekend for the Weekend Warrior, and that only gets you football. This will get you 7 days of everything, all sports. Head on over to wagertalk.com. Go to my homepage. If you want a direct link to my homepage, it's wt.buzz/MD, and you can check it out. All right, enough about that. Let's get to some more winners, guys. And we are going to look at Missouri at Auburn. Now, Missouri's 5-1 with their only loss coming last week, that 3-point loss to Alabama, as we mentioned earlier. Now you have the number 16th ranked Missouri team on the road playing unranked 3-3 Auburn. Yet Auburn is the small favorite. What's up with that? Well, this is what I like to refer to as a trap game. Is Missouri is the poster child for lose the same game twice. That was a big game for Missouri last week. They had 2 weeks to prepare for Alabama. They were trying to revenge an embarrassing loss from the season before, and they left it all on the field. They came up just short, 27-24. What do I tell you all the time? When teams have a big game and they come up just short, oftentimes they're flat as a pancake the next week. And that's why we're seeing Auburn as the slight favorite here. What we're also seeing is this 3-3 Auburn team. If you look at their 3 losses, look at who they were against. They were against Oklahoma, Texas A&M, and Georgia. Well, the last time I looked, all of those teams are top 25 teams, actually top 15 teams. That is a pretty impressive resume. And in those 3 losses, they were competitive in all 3 of those games. I think Auburn is the right side here. They're going to catch that flat Missouri team off of that Alabama loss last week. Auburn gets this one. We'll go ahead and take Auburn and lay the 1.5 in what is a big trap game for Saturday. Now, for the last one, let's go to the NFL. And guys, man, we've been crushing it with the NFL. 5-1 here on the show. Can we make it 6-1? Let's do it. We're going to take a look at Las Vegas as they travel to Kansas City. Now, Kansas City's played 6 straight high-profile games. And what I mean by high-profile games is 4 of the opponents, they started off with the Chargers in Brazil, division game in Brazil. Then they play Philadelphia. That was the Super Bowl revenge game in week 2. Talk about 2 tough games back-to-back. Oh, then who else do they get? Oh, Baltimore comes to town. Baltimore, even though they're having a down season, Baltimore was a big name coming to town. They were the favorite to win the AFC. And they also played Detroit last week. Another high-profile game. In between those games, the 2 games that weren't big-name teams, they played the Giants and they played Jacksonville. Okay, but those games were a Sunday night football game and a Monday night football game. That's 6 straight weeks of either high-profile teams or high-profile TV situations, Sunday night or Monday night. This is a spot where they are going to just rest. Yeah, I'm not saying, they're going to take the week off, but they're going to try to get in and get out. And the general perception of this team now is because the offense is starting to score points and they got a couple players back. They had Xavier Worthy come back 2 weeks ago, and this week they get Rashid Rice back, that the offense is going to explode. No, here's the deal. Rice is going to need a couple weeks. Rust, he hasn't played all season, plus they got to get their timing down. And the fact that when they've been scoring more points is because they've been playing offensive teams that they need to score points. The Raiders don't poise that same threat. And what I'm seeing in this game and what I anticipate is Kansas City's going to want to shorten the game, get in and get out. And if they get a lead, we know what Andy Reid likes to do. He likes to sit on the ball, protect the lead, run the football, keep the clock moving. And that's going to lead to a lower scoring game. And the Raiders, well, their offense has sucked all year. I don't see it changing against this Kansas City defense. So with all that said, I'm looking at a total that I think is just way too high. And it's put that high because of the Kansas City perception. That's not the way this game's going to play out. We're going to take this one under 45.5. Guys, again, thank you for hanging out with me. I appreciate you taking the time to watch the videos. I love bringing you information. I love teaching you about handicapping and going inside how I break games down. And if you like that, do me a favor, hit the thumbs up, helps the channel out. And if you really like it, head on over to wagertalk.com, check out a premium package and get all of my best plays that I give my premium clients each week. Until next week, guys, thanks for watching, and let's cash some tickets. Once again, I'll see you next week here in Marco's Deli. Let's eat good this week, guys.